Welcome to Jazz Piano Skills. I'm Dr. Bob Lawrence. It's time to discover, learn, and play jazz piano. Well, here we are, right? Smack dab in the middle of the month. We've been hard at it studying the jazz standard Just Friends. And we studied it, of course, harmonically. We started with our harmonic analysis of the tune. We looked at its form, various chord changes, common progressions found within the tune, various voicings, left-hand shell voicings, two-handed voicings. We then turned our attention to the melodic analysis of the tune, where we transcribed the melody. We studied our fingerings, various phrases, target notes within the phrases, various treatments. And of course, last week we looked at it improvisationally. So, we gave it our 1, 2, 3 punch, if you will. We looked at it harmonically, melodically, and improvisationally. And I typically like to give you all a break with an interview or a lecture series. And today and next week are going to be 2 back-to-back lecture series that are designed to help you develop your improvisational skills, designed to help you practice improvising. Right? Seems kind of a contradiction in terms, right? Practicing improvisation. But that's exactly what we do. And that's exactly what jazz musicians do. So we're going to spend the next couple weeks diving into how to successfully practice improvisation. So today you're going to discover hybrid arpeggios. You heard me correctly. Hybrid arpeggios. And you're going to learn why hybrid arpeggios are critical for developing mature improvisation skills. And you're going to play a variety of melodic lines using hybrid arpeggios formulated from harmonic pairs. Wow. So as I always like to say, regardless of where you are in your jazz journey, a beginner, an intermediate player, an advanced player, or even if you're a seasoned and experienced professional, makes no difference. You all are going to find this Jazz Piano Skills podcast lesson exploring the art and skill of using hybrid arpeggios to help you develop your improvisational skills to be very, very beneficial. But before we jump in, before we get started, I want to, as I always do, welcome all of you first-time listeners to Jazz Piano Skills. And if you are indeed a new listener, if you're new to Jazz Piano Skills, welcome. I want to invite you to become a Jazz Piano Skills member. And your membership will grant you access to the premium content, not only for this podcast episode, but for every weekly podcast episode. And the premium content, of course, will help you thoroughly and correctly maximize your development, your jazz piano skills, your ability to develop, learn, and play, not only the jazz standard that we are currently studying, the skills that we are currently studying as well. So, for example, as a Jazz Piano Skills member, you have access to the past, the current, and the future educational weekly podcast packets. These are the illustrations, the lead sheets, the play-alongs, the backing tracks that I design and develop to help you get the most out of every weekly podcast episode. Now, these episodes go back 5 years, so you're getting a lot of educational content that you have access to as a Jazz Piano Skills member. Now, you also have access as a member to the online jazz piano curriculum, which is loaded with comprehensive courses. And all the courses contain educational talks. There's learning, interactive learning media to help you digest the jazz piano skills conceptually, video demonstrations of the skills in all 12 keys, and so much more. As a member, you also have a reserved seat in my online weekly masterclasses, which I hold on every Thursday evening at 8 p.m. And if you can't attend, it's no problem because all of the masterclasses are recorded And you can listen to the master classes or watch or rewatch the master classes whenever and as often as you wish. As a member, you also have access to the online interactive fake book, which contains must-know jazz standards, all of them with excellent chord changes. The chord scale relationships are mapped out, harmonic function analysis. There's listening suggestions and historical insights for each of the tunes as well. As a Jazz Piano Skills member, you can enjoy the online private Jazz Piano Skills community, which hosts a variety of engaging forums. You can get out there and meet some new jazz friends, maybe run into some old jazz friends as well. It's an outstanding platform that allows you to interact and engage with folks from all around the world. As a Jazz Piano Skills member, you also get the cherry on top here is that you also get unlimited private, personal, and professional educational support whenever and as often as you need it. So all of these amazing privileges, these perks, are waiting to help you discover, learn, and play jazz piano. So become a member. Check it all out, jazzpianoskills.com. Become a member, enjoy premium podcast content, and all the other privileges that I just mentioned. And of course, once you get to the site and you're poking around, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me, to reach out. I'm happy to spend some time with you, answer all of your questions, and help you in any way that I can. Okay, so now is usually the time that I do the question of the week, but because we have so much to get through today, and I'm telling you right now, I'm already going to feel like I'm going to rush through this because there's so much content. But anyway, I'm going to bypass the question of the week this week so we can get right down to business and start studying and talking about these hybrid arpeggios and how they're going to help you develop your improvisational skills. So with that being said, let's get after this. Let's discover, learn, and play jazz piano. Let's discover, learn, and play hybrid arpeggios. Okay, so let's begin with a really important question. The question is this: why? Why is improvisation so difficult? Why do we struggle with developing improvisation skills? Well, I have 3 reasons. 3 reasons I'm going to share with you why I believe, after years, decades of teaching, I'm old. Here are the 3 reasons that I have formulated over the years through my teaching as to why it is so difficult for people to improvise. Number 1, it is a lack of hand mobility. Poor fingerings, without question. Poor fingerings. Pianists have difficulty getting around on the piano because of poor fingerings. If you can't get around on the piano because of poor fingerings, improvisation is going to be very, very difficult. Okay? Number 2. It's a big one. Here we go. Number 2, the inability to play harmony melodically. I'm going to say that again. The inability to play harmony melodically. Right? And that is a result, if you are unable to play harmony melodically, and this goes for non-pianists listening, right? This is not just for pianists. If you are unable to play harmony melodically, it is because it's a result of not knowing what I call the block shapes of the primary sounds of music. The primary sounds of music, of course, being major, dominant, minor, half diminished, and diminished. And when I refer to block shapes, I am referring to the root, the third, the fifth, and the seventh of those sounds, those primary sounds, right? So we need to be able to have a command of each of those primary sounds, the root, the third, the fifth, the seventh, not only in what we call root position, but also in first, second, and third inversion. And number three, unstable time. unstable time. Time is so important. And if you are unable to maintain time, establish time, maintain time, track objects in time and the elements of those objects in time. And what I'm talking about when I say objects, I'm referring to the chords and those harmonic shapes. And I'm referring to when I'm referring to the elements, I'm referring to what? The root, the third, the fifth, the seventh, the chord tones, right? So unstable time, right? It's like a deck of cards that it's going to collapse very quickly. So look, if you put together poor hand mobility together with the inability to play harmony melodically, and then you throw in unstable time, that's just a disastrous formula. And you're not going to develop your improvisation skills. So you can sit at the piano all day thinking, why can't I improvise? And you're all so focused on why you can't improvise that you are not even able to assess the fact that you have poor hand mobility, you are not capable of playing harmony melodically, and your time is all over the map. But yet you're concerned about improvisation. That makes sense, right? Of course not. So what we're going to do today is fix, well, I'm not in one podcast episode, but I'm going to give you some ideas on how to go about the process of beginning the process to fix these 3 reasons why people find it so difficult to develop improvisation skills. So the educational agenda for today is as follows. Number 1, we are going to discover, learn, and play hybrid arpeggios. What are they? Why are they important to practice? How do I create them? Number 2, we will discuss why we must move beyond isolated arpeggio practice. Number 3, we will discuss the importance of seeing improvisation as the melodic representation of harmony, right? Again, improvisation as the melodic representation of harmony. Number 4, we will discuss why time is everything. Our ability to track objects within time, right? Our harmonic structures, our chords, our ability to see, and of course hear the objects, the chords, and the elements of those chords, roots, thirds, fifths, sevenths, in time, right? And number 5, we will discuss how to properly practice hybrid arpeggios and the importance. This is really important. The importance is really important. Did you get that? So we're going to discuss how to properly practice hybrid arpeggios, the importance of establishing self-imposed constraints, or like what I like to call the rules of the game. The rules of the game. And if you're practicing and you don't have the rules of the game when you're practicing, you're not practicing correctly. There always must be rules of the game. Okay? So, you see why I'm skipping the question of the week this week? This is a lot to try to get through. It's going to require some heavy thinking and, of course, some heavy playing as well. This is a lot to discuss conceptually and to digest it conceptually and physically, of course, but we're going to get it done. So, okay. So, again, and just a reminder, likewise, with the lecture series, there are no podcast packets. And that's intentional because I want you to listen and I want you to think things through and I want you to hear things through. I don't necessarily want you to see things through, right? I don't want you to rely on the eyes to process this information and to play it. I want you to think through it. I want you to digest it conceptually and then be able to play it, execute it physically with no paper in front of you, no written music in front of you. Okay? All right. So let's begin. Why do we need to move beyond isolated arpeggio practice? Well, I think if we stop to think about it, the answer is pretty obvious. And that is that music doesn't deal with an isolated chord. It doesn't deal with harmonic sounds, harmonic shapes, melodic sounds, melodic shapes in isolation. Now, it's okay to practice that way if we're have an objective to explore a specific sound in a certain way. Sure, absolutely. I do that all the time. However, if that's all that you do, you're going to have trouble when it comes to playing literature, when it comes to playing songs, materials, repertoire, right? Because we're moving through several sounds. We're not isolating one sound. And it's ironic, right? Because all of us in our piano lessons, and our music lessons, we all learn our arpeggios, we all learn our scales in isolation. And we never move beyond that, right? So I can remember as a young boy learning my scales, I always had the mindset, because I was taught this way, practice your C major scale, practice your C major arpeggio. Oh, now practice your F major scale. Now practice your F major arpeggio, and so on. Always practicing arpeggios in isolation, one at a time. We need to move beyond that if we want to develop our improvisational skills, because that's what's going to be demanded of us when we go to improvise. We're going to have to move through sound melodically, not in isolation, right? Move through sound melodically, side by side by side by side. Okay, so we need to move beyond isolated arpeggio practice, and that's where hybrid arpeggios come in. We need to start practicing hybrid arpeggios. So a hybrid arpeggio is the combination, hence the name, it's the combination of two different chords, or three different chords, or four different chords melodically. I'm going to say that again. It's the combination of two or three or four or more chords melodically. Today, we're going to use what I call a harmonic pairs to begin the process of establishing or developing hybrid arpeggios. So for today, we're going to take two harmonic shapes, two chords, place them side by side, and create one melodic line that moves through those chords. So we're starting to begin the process of developing the mindset of one melodic line, or I should say maybe two chords, but yet one melodic line. Two chords, one melodic line, right? That's a hybrid arpeggio. It could be three chords, one melodic line, four chords, one melodic line. But the point being is that we have multiple sounds that we are combining melodically, And that is how we create hybrid arpeggios, and we'll go through that today, okay? Now, I mentioned earlier the rules of the game. I'm going to establish the rules here shortly. But I also mentioned that when you're practicing, if there aren't rules of the game when you sit down to practice, regardless of the skill, whatever it is that you're practicing, then you're not practicing correctly. There always must be rules of the game, constraints that have been self-imposed, right? Self-imposed constraints that allows you to accurately assess success or failure. Success or failure, right? And I will go through the rules of the game here shortly. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what I call harmonic vision. I've mentioned this several times in past podcast episodes. I call it harmonic vision. Your ability to see harmony melodically, right? Your ability to see harmony melodically. How well do you know the harmonic shape, the roots, the thirds, the fifths, the sevenths, right? Of every melodic, of every harmonic shape, the primary sounds of music that I mentioned earlier. How well do you see them? How well can you place your hands on them on your instrument? So high harmonic vision, the greater chance you're going to succeed improvisationally. The lower your harmonic vision, you're blind, right? And if you're blind, your harmonic vision is blind, then your ability to improvise, it's just not going to happen, okay? So we will talk about that as we go through our hybrid arpeggios. And then also, I mentioned earlier too, time is everything. Everything we do today, of course, is going to be placed within the context of time. And the self-imposed constraints that we're going to use today, here they are. Here are the rules of the game for today when it comes to our hybrid arpeggios. Number one, we are going to create harmonic pairs using the same quality of sound. Now, of course, harmonic pairs can be, literally, you can take any two chords that you want and place them side by side. But today we're not going to do that. We're going to be a little bit more structured. I am suggesting that we stick with the same quality of sound. In other words, we're going to match up major with major, or minor with minor, dominant with dominant, so on. Right? Today, I'm going to be doing minor with minor. But what I model for you today should be done across the board with major sounds, with dominant sounds, with half diminished sounds, and with diminished sounds. Today, I'm going to model everything using a minor-minor harmonic pair. Okay, number two. The first chord of our harmonic pair, this is the second rule, the first chord of our harmonic pair will remain constant. It's going to never change, right? And the chord will be swapped using the other 11 chords. All right. Well, today I'm not going to do that because the podcast would be several hours long. But when you're practicing at home, when you're taking this and you're practicing, the first chord is going to remain the same. So today I'm using C minor and F sharp minor. These are going to be my two harmonic pairs, C minor and F sharp minor. If I were practicing this, I would be thinking in terms of matching my C minor with C sharp minor, my C minor with D minor, my C minor with E flat minor, my C minor with E minor, and so on, to move through all of the 12 minor sounds, right? So we always want the first chord of our harmonic pair to remain constant, never changing, while the second chord will be swapped out with the other 11 chords. Rule number 3, each harmonic pair will be one measure in length, followed by a measure of silence. And we've spent a lot of time talking about that over the last couple of months, right? So each harmonic pair will be one measure in length, followed by a measure of silence. Number 4, we will create 4 specific melodic lines. We will create an ascending line. We will create an ascending line. We will create a descending line. And we will create a descending line. So we have very specific directions, types of motion that we are using. Ascending, descending, descending, and descending, ascending. Okay? The next rule, each of our 4 melodic lines will be created in 2 ways. The first way, we'll create it using all quarter notes. The second way, we will use all eighth notes. Again, we're being very specific the type of rhythmic values that we are utilizing to create our hybrid arpeggios, okay? The next rule, our melodic lines will only, for now, only consist of the root, the third, the fifth, and the seventh of each chord. That's it, okay? Next, we must practice creating our musical lines launching from various entry points, from the root, from the third, and the fifth, and the seventh of our first chord, right? Of our first chord. Now today, I'm going to do it just from the root, again, because if I did through all the combinations, it'd be a multi-hour podcast. And then the next rule, each melodic line will fill the entire measure. So if I'm using quarter notes, I'm going to be using 4 quarter notes to get through that measure. Eighth notes, I'm going to use 8 eighth notes to get through that measure with my hybrid arpeggio. I'm not going to do 7, not going to do 6, I'm going to do 8. When it comes to quarter notes, I'm not going to do 3 or 2, I'm going to do 4, right? And then finally, of course, our melodic lines must be played in time. Must be played in time. So those are a lot of rules, right? That's a lot of rules of the game. And somebody might be asking, do you really think like that, man? Do you really create these kind of rules when you sit down to practice? The answer, of course, is yes. Yes, I do. I do exactly this. I have it set. I have a set methodology, a set approach that I'm going to implement when I practice. Again, so I can measure, accurately assess whether I succeed or whether I fail. I just don't sit down and doodle. Doodling's fun. Doodling's cool. Doodling has some value to it for sure, right? But it's not this kind of grunt work. It doesn't have the payoff that this grunt work has. I promise you, it doesn't. Because you know what? When you doodle, you can't replicate doodle, right? You can't. Randomness is. How do you replicate random? See, you have to have rules. So to go through the list again very quickly. We're going to create harmonic pairs using the same quality, major, major, minor, minor, so on. The first chord of our harmonic pair will remain constant, never changing. We'll swap the second chord out with the other 11 chords. Number 3, we're going to, each harmonic pair will be 1 measure in length, followed by a measure of silence. Number 4, we will create 4 specific melodic lines, ascending, 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 descending, 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 and descending, ascending. Number 5, each of our 4 melodic lines will be created 2 ways. 1, using all quarter notes. The second way, all eighth notes. Number 6, our melodic lines will only consist of the root, third, fifth, and seventh of each chord. Number 7, we will practice creating our music lines launching from various entry points of the first chord, the root, the third, the fifth, and the seventh of our harmonic pair, right? The first chord of our harmonic pair. Number 8, each melodic line will fill the entire measure, right? And of course, our melodic lines will be played in time. Very, very specific rules of the game that we must adhere to today. Okay, so let's get after this. Let's play our hybrid arpeggios. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm using today C minor and F sharp minor. Thank you for listening to Jazz Piano Skills. The remaining premium content of this episode is available to Jazz Piano Skills members at jazzpianoskillspodcast.com. Visit jazzpianoskills.com to learn more about membership privileges and become a Jazz Piano Skills member. Thank you.